Maya Johnson, a 34-year-old black woman, stands frozen in the marble hallway of the Whitmore estate on her first day as housekeeper. Her cleaning cloth drops from trembling hands as she stares at an oil painting. The face in the gilded frame makes her knees buckle. Those eyes, that birthmark. It's impossible. The boy should be dead. She buried that truth 23 years ago, along with her childhood. But here he is, preserved in expensive paint, hanging in the home of Charleston's most powerful judge. Her scream shatters the silence. 3 days earlier, Maya sat in her cramped apartment in North Charleston, staring at the eviction notice taped to her door. $37 in her bank account. 1 can of soup in the cupboard. 6 months unemployed, and the world had forgotten she existed. Her phone buzzed. Her daughter Zara calling from Columbia, where she lived with Maya's elderly mother. "Sweetie, I need my inhaler refills." "The pharmacy says you haven't paid." Maya's chest tightened. "I'll send money tomorrow, baby." "I promise." Another promise she couldn't keep. Another failure stacking on top of all the others. She ended the call and pressed her palms against her eyes. "Don't cry. Crying doesn't pay bills. Crying doesn't feed your child. Crying doesn't undo what Mrs. Patricia Hendricks did to you." 6 months ago, Maya worked as a housekeeper at the Harbor Grand Hotel downtown. Good pay. Steady hours. Then a guest reported a missing diamond bracelet. Mrs. Hendricks, the head manager, a white woman with cold blue eyes and a permanent sneer, accused Maya immediately. Didn't matter that security footage showed Maya never entered that guest room. Didn't matter that Maya had worked there 3 years without a single complaint. Mrs. Hendricks called the police. They believed her instantly. A well-dressed white manager versus a black housekeeper. The math was simple. The local news ran the story. Woman arrested for theft at luxury hotel. Maya's face plastered across screens. Charges were eventually dropped for lack of evidence, but the damage was permanent. Her name was poisoned now. Every job application rejected. Every interview canceled. Every door slammed in her face. Her phone rang again. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Hello? Maya Johnson? This is Carolyn from Elite Staffing Services. We have a position that might work for you." Maya's heart jumped. "What kind of position?" "Live-in housekeeper. The pay is substantial. $1,200 weekly, plus room and board." Maya's breath caught. That was more than she'd ever made. "What's the catch?" "The client is particular. Judge Richard Whitmore. He requires absolute discretion and professionalism. You'd start Monday if you're selected. Send me the address. I'll be there." Maya borrowed bus fare from her neighbor, a kind elderly man who asked no questions. She pressed her only professional outfit, a black skirt and white blouse, washed her hair, prayed her shoes wouldn't fall apart during the interview. 2 buses and 90 minutes later, she stood before iron gates bearing the letter W in elaborate script. Beyond them stretched a driveway lined with ancient oaks, dripping Spanish moss. The mansion at the end looked like something from a history book. Greek columns, wraparound porches, windows that gleamed like diamonds. Maya's stomach twisted. She didn't belong here. But Zara needed that inhaler. She pressed the intercom button. "Yes?" A man's voice, clipped and cold. "Maya Johnson, I'm here for the housekeeper interview." A pause. Then the gate swung open with a mechanical hum. She walked up the driveway, her cheap shoes clicking on pristine pavement. Gardens sprawled on either side. Roses, camellias. Magnolias the size of dinner plates. A fountain bubbled in a circular courtyard. The mansion loomed above her. 3 stories of old Charleston wealth. A side door opened. Not the grand front entrance with its double doors and brass knocker. A plain door marked service entrance. A white man emerged. 50s, trim suit, expression like he'd just smelled something rotten. Douglas Barrett, estate manager. "Follow me." He didn't offer to shake her hand. Maya followed him through narrow hallways, servant corridors. The ceilings were lower here, the walls plain white. They passed a kitchen gleaming with stainless steel and marble countertops, a formal dining room with a chandelier dripping crystals, a library stuffed with leather-bound books. Barrett led her to a small office near the back of the house. "Sit. Maya Saturday." He remained standing, pulled out her application. "Read it like he was searching for lies." "You were terminated from the Harbor Grand Hotel." Maya's jaw tightened. "I was falsely accused. The charges were dropped." Barrett's eyes flicked up. "Judge Whitmore has zero tolerance for dishonesty. One mistake and you're gone. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." "Your duties would include cleaning all bathrooms, bedrooms, common areas, preparing the judge's meals, laundry, silver polishing, and any other tasks assigned. You work 6 days weekly. Sunday off. 6 in the morning to 9 at night. Your quarters are in the basement. You use the back stairs only. Never the main staircase. You do not speak to the judge unless he addresses you first. You do not enter his private study or the East Wing under any circumstances. Are these terms acceptable?" Maya swallowed. "Yes, sir." Barrett studied her another long moment, then nodded curtly. "Wait here." He left. Maya sat alone in the office, hands folded in her lap. Photographs on the walls showed the mansion in different eras. Black and white images from the 1800s. Color photos from the 50s and 60s. White families in fancy clothes. Servants, always black, always in the background, always blurred. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. Maya's feet ached. Her stomach growled. Finally, footsteps. Barrett returned. Behind him walked another man, taller. Silver hair swept back. Expensive suit that probably cost more than Maya's entire wardrobe. Blue eyes sharp as broken glass. He looked at Maya the way someone looks at furniture they're considering buying. Judge Richard Whitmore barely glanced at her face. "She'll do," he said to Barrett. "Have her start Monday. Keep her away from my study and the East Wing." Then he walked away. Didn't ask her name. Didn't ask her a single question. Barrett handed her a folder. "Your employment contract. Sign and return by Sunday. You'll receive a uniform. Report Monday at 5:30 in the morning. Use the service entrance. Bring minimal personal belongings. 1 suitcase maximum. Do not be late. Judge Whitmore does not tolerate lateness." Maya took the folder with shaking hands. "Thank you. I won't let you down." Barrett's expression didn't change. "We'll see." He escorted her back through the servant corridors to the side door. As he opened it, Maya glanced through a window into the main part of the house. For just a second, she saw a grand hallway, marble floors, a sweeping staircase, and on the wall, a large painting in a gold frame, a portrait of a young boy. Even from a distance, even through glass, something about that face sent a chill through her. She knew that face. But from where? Barrett cleared his throat impatiently. Maya startled and walked out. The door closed behind her with a firm click. That night in her apartment, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept seeing that painted face. Those eyes. Why did they feel so familiar? She closed her own eyes and tried to remember. Nothing came. Just a nagging sense that she'd seen that boy before. Somewhere important. Somewhere that mattered. But memory was a tricky thing. Maybe she was imagining it. Maybe desperation was making her see connections that didn't exist. She signed the contract, packed her suitcase, called her mother, and told her about the job. Mama's relief was palpable. "Thank the Lord, baby. We've been praying. You gonna be all right now?" Maya wanted to believe that. But something in Judge Whitmore's cold eyes told her this job would cost more than she expected. Monday morning arrived dark and cold. Maya stood outside the Whitmore mansion at 5:15, her breath misting in the February air. She wore the uniform Barrett had sent, a gray dress, white apron, sensible black shoes. She felt like she was wearing a costume from another century. Barrett opened the service door exactly at 5:30. "You're on time. Good. Follow me." He led her down a narrow staircase to the basement. Concrete walls, harsh fluorescent lights, the smell of mildew and detergent. "Your room." He opened a door. Inside was a space barely bigger than a closet. A twin bed with white sheets, a small dresser, one window high on the wall, ground level outside, showing nothing but grass and gravel, a single light bulb overhead. The bathroom is shared with the gardener. He uses it before 6 and after 8. Plan accordingly. Maya set down her suitcase. Barrett didn't give her time to unpack. Your duties begin immediately. Come. The next 4 hours blurred into exhausting routine. Barrett showed her the supply closet stocked with industrial cleaners, the laundry room with machines large enough to wash hotel linens, the judge's preferences. He takes coffee at 6:30, black, no sugar, 2 eggs over easy, toast barely browned, orange juice freshly squeezed. If breakfast is late, you'll be docked pay. Understood? Maya nodded. Her hands already ached from scrubbing the first bathroom. 12 bathrooms total in the mansion. 12. Each one marble and pristine. Barrett inspected her work on the second bathroom. Missed a spot. Do it again. Maya did it again and again, until he grudgingly approved. The morning crawled by, vacuuming 17 rooms, dusting furniture that probably cost more than a car, polishing silver that gleamed so bright it hurt to look at. Maya's back screamed. Her knees throbbed. She'd worked hard jobs before, but nothing like this. And Barrett watched constantly, criticizing, correcting, making her redo tasks for invisible flaws. At 11, she took a 5-minute break to drink water in the kitchen. Barrett appeared instantly. Break time is not until noon. That's 50 cents off your pay. Maya stared at him. For drinking water? Barrett's expression was stone. Rules are rules. Learn them or leave. By late afternoon, Barrett finally left her alone to clean the main hallway. The marble floors needed polishing. The mirrors needed dusting. The artwork needed careful attention. Maya worked slowly, carefully. The mansion's opulence still shocked her. Crystal chandeliers hung from ceilings painted with elaborate frescoes. Persian rugs covered floors. Oil paintings in gold frames lined every wall. And there, in the center of the main hallway, hung the portrait she'd glimpsed during her interview. Now she stood directly in front of it, close enough to see every brushstroke, close enough to see the details clearly. And her blood turned to ice. The boy in the painting was maybe 11 or 12 years old. Black, beautiful, wearing clothes from the late 90s, baggy jeans, a colorful shirt, high-top sneakers. His expression was solemn, sad eyes that looked directly at the viewer. And below his left eye, a distinctive crescent-shaped birthmark. Maya's cleaning cloth slipped from her fingers. That birthmark. She knew that birthmark. Her mind lurched backward through decades, through years of trying to forget, through layers of buried pain. And suddenly, she was 11 years old again, standing in the cafeteria of Riverside Children's Home in Columbia, watching a new boy walk in, small for his age, scared, alone. Other kids already circling like sharks. His name was Marcus. Marcus Williams. He was 8 years old and had just been placed at Riverside after his grandmother died. No other family. Nowhere else to go. Maya saw the older boys targeting him immediately. Saw them push him in line. Saw them take his food. Something in Maya couldn't let it happen. She'd been at Riverside since she was 9. 2 years. Long enough to know how to survive. She walked over to Marcus's table. Sat down next to him. "You're gonna be okay. I got your back." Marcus looked at her with those sad brown eyes. The crescent birthmark below his left eye. That gap between his front teeth when he tried to smile. "Why would you help me?" "Because somebody helped me once. Now I'm helping you." They became inseparable, Maya and Marcus. She taught him how to navigate Riverside, how to avoid the mean counselors, how to get extra food, how to make friends. They shared everything. Secrets, dreams, fears. Marcus wanted to be a basketball player. Maya wanted to be a teacher. They promised they'd get adopted together, promised they'd never forget each other. For 3 years, they were family. Then one morning when Maya was 14 and Marcus was 11, he was gone. Just gone. His bed stripped, his locker empty. Maya asked everyone, "Where's Marcus? What happened?" The counselors gave vague answers. "He was adopted, a family up north. He's going to have a wonderful life." But something felt wrong. Adoptions usually took weeks. Meetings, paperwork, goodbyes. Marcus left overnight. No warning. No goodbye to Maya. No goodbye to anyone. Maya cried for days, felt abandoned, betrayed. Eventually, she forced herself to stop thinking about him. It hurt too much. She stayed at Riverside until she aged out at 18, got a job, got pregnant with Zara, got knocked down by life again and again, and slowly, painfully, she'd forgotten Marcus Williams. Until now. Until this moment. Standing in a white judge's mansion, staring at a portrait of the boy who disappeared 23 years ago. The boy who should be 34 now. The boy who vanished without a trace. But the nameplate on the portrait's gold frame didn't say Marcus Williams. It said Michael Whitmore, 1987 to 1998. A white family's name. A death year that matched exactly when Marcus disappeared. Maya's scream was involuntary, raw, ripped from somewhere deep in her chest. It echoed through the marble hallway, through the empty rooms, through the mansion's cold heart. Footsteps pounded, fast, angry. Judge Richard Whitmore burst into the hallway, his face purple with fury. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, his voice like a whip crack. Maya couldn't speak, could only point at the portrait with a shaking hand, tears streaming down her face. The judge followed her gesture, saw what she was looking at, and his expression changed. The anger drained away, replaced by something else, fear. His hands began to tremble. His face went pale. "What are you doing?" he said quietly, dangerously. "Nothing, sir. I was just cleaning, and I saw." "Saw what?" Maya met his eyes. "Sir, that boy in the painting. He lived with me in the orphanage. His name is Marcus Williams. We grew up together at Riverside Children's Home in Columbia. He disappeared in 1998. Why do you have his portrait? Why does it say Michael Whitmore?" The judge grabbed her arm, hard, his fingers digging into her flesh. "You're lying." His voice shook. "You couldn't possibly know him." But Maya saw the panic in his eyes, saw the guilt, saw the terror of exposure. She wasn't lying. And somehow, impossibly, Judge Richard Whitmore knew exactly who Marcus Williams was. Judge Whitmore dragged Maya down the hallway, his grip bruising her arm. She stumbled to keep up. "Where are we going? What are you doing? Shut up. Just shut up." He pulled her into a room, his private study. Dark wood paneling, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive desk, leather chairs. He shoved her into one and locked the door. Then he pressed a button on his desk phone. "Barrett, get to my study, now." Minutes later, Barrett arrived, took in the scene, the judge pacing like a caged animal. Maya sitting rigid in the chair. "What's happened?" Barrett asked calmly. "She knows." The judge's voice cracked. "She knows about the boy." Barrett's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "How?" "I don't know. She saw the portrait. Claims she knew him from some orphanage. It's impossible. After all these years, it's impossible." Barrett turned to Maya, his gaze cold and assessing. "Is this true?" Maya lifted her chin. "Yes. His name is Marcus Williams. I met him when I was 11 years old at Riverside Children's Home in Columbia. He was 8. We were best friends for 3 years. In 1998, when he was 11, he disappeared. The staff said he was adopted, but I never believed it. Something felt wrong. And now I see his face in this house with a different name and a death date. So I want to know what happened. Why do you have his portrait? What did you do to him?" The judge sank into his desk chair, put his face in his hands. "This can't be happening. Margaret, this was supposed to stay buried. After all this time, how is this happening?" Barrett stepped forward. "Sir, we need to handle this carefully. If we terminate her employment now, she'll ask questions. She'll talk. People will investigate." The judge looked up, his eyes bloodshot. "Then what do? We ensure her silence." Barrett turned to Maya. "You will not speak of this to anyone, not a single person. If you value your job, your daughter's health, your mother's safety, you will forget what you saw today." Maya's blood ran cold. "Are you threatening me?" Barrett's smile was thin. "I'm stating facts. You're a woman with a theft accusation on her record. no credibility, no resources. Judge Whitmore is one of the most powerful men in South Carolina. He has connections in law enforcement, in the courts, in every institution that matters. If you try to make accusations, you'll be destroyed. Completely. And your family will suffer the consequences. Maya wanted to run, wanted to scream, but she thought of Zara, thought of her mother, thought of how quickly she could lose everything. Still, she couldn't let this go. Tell me what happened to Marcus. Tell me the truth. Is he alive? The judge stood abruptly. You want the truth? Fine. His voice was ragged, unhinged. That boy in the portrait. Yes, I brought him here. Yes, it was 1998. Yes, he came from an orphanage. But it wasn't kidnapping. It wasn't illegal. I gave him a home, a future, a life he never would have had otherwise. Where is he now? Maya demanded. The judge's jaw clenched. He wouldn't answer. Barrett intervened smoothly. That's not your concern. Your concern is keeping your job and protecting your family. Judge Whitmore is prepared to offer you an arrangement. Your salary will double, $2,400 weekly. In exchange, you never mention that portrait again. You never ask questions. You never investigate. You forget everything about Marcus Williams. Maya's mind raced. Double salary. That was nearly $10,000 monthly. She could pay off debts, get Zara proper medical care, help her mother. But at what cost? At the cost of abandoning Marcus again? At the cost of letting whatever happened to him stay hidden? She looked at the judge, saw the desperation in his face, saw the guilt eating him alive. Something terrible had happened, something he was terrified of anyone discovering. I need time to think, Maya said carefully. Barrett shook his head. No time. Decide now. Accept the offer or leave immediately without pay or reference. Maya's hands shook in her lap. She had no choice. No power. No options. I accept. But I want to know one thing. Just one. Is Marcus alive? The judge and Barrett exchanged glances. Finally, the judge spoke. That information is not part of our agreement. Maya's heart sank. Now get out. Barrett will show you back to your duties. Speak of this to anyone and the deal is void. We'll know if you talk. We have ways of knowing. Barrett unlocked the door, gestured for Maya to leave. She stood on unsteady legs and walked out. As she passed the judge, she saw him slump in his chair, saw his hands shaking, saw a man drowning in secrets. Barrett escorted her back through the mansion. In the hallway, they passed the portrait again. Maya couldn't help but look. Marcus's young face staring out from the canvas. Those sad eyes. That birthmark, the wrong name beneath. Maya whispered to Barrett. He deserves to be remembered by his real name. Barrett didn't respond. Didn't even acknowledge she'd spoken. They reached the service stairs. Get back to work. You have the West Wing bedrooms to clean. Barrett walked away. Maya stood alone. She looked down at her hands. They were still shaking. She'd just agreed to stay silent about something deeply wrong, something evil. But what choice did she have? She was one black woman with no power against a white judge with unlimited resources. She couldn't win this fight, could she? That night, in her basement room, Maya couldn't sleep. Her phone glowed in the darkness. She typed into the search bar, Marcus Williams, Riverside Children's Home, Columbia, South Carolina. Nothing relevant came up. She tried Michael Whitmore, found obituaries for several Michael Whitmores across the country, but none matching the dates on the portrait. She tried Judge Richard Whitmore family, found his professional bio, his divorce records from 15 years ago, no mention of children, no mention of a son who died in 1998. She tried Riverside Children's Home, 1990s, found some old articles about the facility, budget cuts, overcrowding, mentions of children aging out of the system, nothing about missing kids, nothing about illegal adoptions. Maya set down her phone, stared at the concrete ceiling. Marcus's face floated in her mind. She'd abandoned him once when he disappeared. She'd stopped looking, stopped asking, stopped caring because it hurt too much. Now she had a chance to find out what really happened, but it meant risking everything: her job, her daughter's health, her family's safety. What was the right choice? What would Marcus want her to do? She already knew the answer. Marcus would want the truth. No matter the cost, the truth mattered more than anything. Maya made her decision. She would find out what happened to Marcus Williams, even if it destroyed her in the process. Because this time, she wouldn't abandon him. This time, she would fight. 5 days passed. Maya performed her duties perfectly. Didn't mention the portrait, didn't ask questions, didn't give Barrett or the judge any reason to suspect she was planning something. But every spare moment, she investigated. At night, in her basement room, she searched online. During her few minutes of break time, she made quiet phone calls. She started with Riverside Children's Home, called their main number, asked to speak with someone who worked there in the late 90s. Most staff had moved on, retired, died. But the receptionist mentioned one name. Tasha Green used to be a counselor there. She's working at a community center in Columbia now. Maya got the number. Called. Left a voicemail. "This is Maya Johnson. I lived at Riverside from 1991 to 1999. I'm trying to find information about a boy named Marcus Williams who disappeared in 1998. If you remember him, please call me back. It's urgent." 2 days later, Tasha called. "Maya, I remember you. Sweet girl, always helping the younger kids. And yes, I remember Marcus Williams. Why are you asking about him now, after all these years?" Maya couldn't explain over the phone. "Can we meet in person? I have Sunday off." "I can take a bus to Columbia," Tasha agreed. Sunday morning, Maya told Barrett she was visiting her daughter. He granted permission reluctantly. "Be back by 8 tonight or you're fired." Maya took 3 buses to Columbia. Met Tasha at a small diner on the edge of town. Tasha was in her late 50s now, gray hair, kind eyes. She hugged Maya tight. "Look at you all grown up. How's life been treating you?" Maya gave the short version. "Rough, but I'm surviving." Tasha nodded knowingly. Most Riverside kids had rough lives. The system failed them over and over. They ordered coffee and pie. Then Maya pulled out her phone, showed Tasha a photo she'd secretly taken of the portrait in the Whitmore mansion. "Do you recognize this boy?" Tasha's face went pale. "That's Marcus." "Where did you get this?" "It's hanging in the home of Judge Richard Whitmore in Charleston. The nameplate says Michael Whitmore. Died in 1998. Tasha set down her coffee cup with shaking hands. "Oh God. I knew something was wrong back then. I knew it." Tasha told Maya everything she remembered. In the fall of 1998, a man came to Riverside, well-dressed, white. Said he represented Harmony Family Services, an adoption agency. He was looking for a child to place with a grieving family. The family had recently lost their son and wanted to adopt a boy around the same age. Marcus was 11, perfect age. The man spent time with Marcus. Took him on outings, bought him gifts. Marcus seemed happy, hopeful. Then one day in early December, the paperwork came through. Marcus was being adopted. But it all happened so fast. Normally adoptions took months. Home visits, background checks, meetings with social workers. This was rushed, done in 3 weeks, and Marcus left overnight. No goodbye party, no chance for the other kids to say farewell. He was just gone. Tasha said she felt uneasy immediately. Called Harmony Family Services to follow up a few weeks later. Make sure Marcus was settling in okay. The number was disconnected. She tried to find the agency online. No website, no records. It was like they never existed. She reported her concerns to the South Carolina Department of Social Services. They said they'd investigate. Nothing came of it. Tasha pushed harder, was told to stop making accusations or she'd lose her job, so she stopped. But the guilt never went away. "There's more," Tasha said quietly. Around that same time, late 90s, there were rumors, whispers among people who worked in foster care and orphanages. Wealthy white families were paying for black children, off the books, illegal adoptions. The children would be taken, given new identities, and used as unpaid servants. Or worse, some kids just disappeared, vanished completely. No one wanted to believe it was happening. But too many children went missing. Too many adoptions felt wrong. I tried to report it. Others tried too. We were ignored. Told we were being paranoid. Told we were making trouble. So it kept happening. Maya felt sick. Are you saying Marcus was trafficked? Tasha's eyes filled with tears. I don't know for sure, but I've always suspected. And now you're telling me his portrait is hanging in a white judge's home under a different name. That tells me everything I need to know. What should I do? Maya asked. Tasha reached across the table, squeezed her hand. Be careful. If Judge Whitmore has the power and resources you say he does, he's dangerous. Investigating him could get you killed. But if Marcus is still alive somewhere, if there's any chance of finding him, then you have to try. Those children deserved better than what the system gave them. They deserved to be protected. We failed them. Don't fail Marcus again. Maya left the diner with new determination and new fear. She took the buses back to Charleston, arrived at the mansion at 7:45, 15 minutes to spare. Barrett was waiting at the service entrance. Any trouble? No, sir. Maya went to her basement room, closed the door, sat on her narrow bed. Her mind spun with everything Tasha had told her. If Marcus had been trafficked, if he'd been brought to the Whitmore mansion as a child, what happened to him? The portrait showed him at 11 or 12, but he'd be 34 now. Was he still here? Still alive? Or had something terrible happened? She needed to search the mansion, find evidence, find answers. But Barrett and the judge watched her constantly during the day. She'd have to search at night. When everyone was asleep, it was risky. If she was caught, she'd be fired immediately. Maybe arrested for trespassing or theft. But she'd come this far. She couldn't stop now. That night, she waited until midnight. The mansion went quiet. Judge Whitmore retired to his bedroom on the second floor. Barrett left at 10, driving to his own home in Mount Pleasant. The gardener, an elderly Mexican man named Luis, slept in the basement room next to Maya's. She could hear his soft snores through the thin walls. Maya crept upstairs, used the back staircase to avoid creaking floorboards. The mansion at night felt different. Shadows stretched long. The artwork seemed to watch her. She moved silently through hallways. Started with the library. Searched the judge's desk. Found legal documents, financial records. Nothing about Marcus. Nothing about adoption. She tried the dining room, the parlor, the sitting room. Nothing. Then she remembered. The judge had forbidden her from entering his private study and the east wing. Those were the places he wanted hidden. She made her way to the study. Tried the door. Locked. She needed a key. Thought about where Barrett might keep spare keys. The kitchen. In a drawer near the service entrance. She found a ring of labeled keys. Study. East wing. Wine cellar. Garage. She took the ring, went back to the study, unlocked it, slipped inside. The study was dark. Moonlight filtered through heavy curtains. Maya used her phone's flashlight. Searched the bookshelves, the file cabinets. Found folders labeled Family, Legal, Correspondence. She opened the family folder. Inside were photos, old photos from the 1980s and 90s. Judge Whitmore as a younger man, a blonde woman, his ex-wife, and a young blonde boy, the biological son, Michael Whitmore. Maya looked at Michael's face. He looked nothing like Marcus. Completely different features, different coloring, different everything. But the dates on the photos matched. Michael was born in 1987, just like Marcus. There were more photos. Michael at birthday parties. Michael at school. Michael playing sports. Then, in late 1998, photos of a funeral. A small white casket. October 1998. Michael had died. Car accident, according to a newspaper clipping in the folder. The judge and his wife standing at the grave. Both destroyed by grief. Maya's heart pounded. So the judge really did lose his son in October 1998, 2 months before Marcus disappeared from Riverside. Was that the connection? Did the judge take Marcus to replace his dead son? She kept searching, found more recent photos, and her breath stopped. Photos from 1999, Judge Whitmore with a young black boy, Marcus. But Marcus looked different. His skin appeared lighter. His hair straightened. He wore expensive clothes, stood next to the judge at formal events, looking miserable, looking terrified. There were photos spanning several years. Marcus at 12, 13, 14, 15, always with that same haunted expression. Then the photos stopped. No pictures of Marcus after age 15 or 16. Why? Where did he go? Maya heard a noise. Footsteps upstairs. She froze. Quickly, put everything back. Turned off her flashlight, slipped out of the study, locked it, ran back to the kitchen, replaced the keys. Made it back to her basement room, just as she heard Judge Whitmore walking around on the floor above. Her heart hammered. That was close. Too close. But she'd learned something crucial. The judge did take Marcus, did keep him here. But what happened after the photos stopped? She thought about the forbidden East Wing. That's where the answers were. Tomorrow night, she'd search there. And she'd find out the truth about Marcus Williams, once and for all. The next day dragged endlessly. Maya went through her duties in a fog. Her mind was consumed with the photos she'd seen. Marcus forced to pretend to be Michael. His skin lightened artificially. His hair altered. His entire identity erased. The horror of it was almost incomprehensible. But she needed more than photos. She needed proof of where Marcus was now. The East Wing held the answers. She was certain. That evening, after finishing her work at 9, Maya told Barrett she was exhausted and going straight to bed. He barely acknowledged her. She went to her room, waited. At midnight, she crept upstairs again with the key ring. The East Wing was on the second floor, opposite end from the judge's bedroom. She'd never been allowed there. Now she understood why. The key turned smoothly in the lock. The door opened. Maya stepped inside, used her phone's flashlight to illuminate the darkness. What she saw made her knees weak. It was a bedroom, but not a normal bedroom. A child's bedroom frozen in time. Late 90s decor. Posters on the walls. Star Wars. Michael Jordan. Space Jam. A twin bed with a blue comforter. Shelves lined with toys. Action figures. Lego sets. A basketball hoop attached to the back of the door. Comic books stacked on a desk. Everything preserved like a museum exhibit. But there were details that made Maya's skin crawl. Bars on the windows. Hidden behind curtains but unmistakably there. A heavy lock on the outside of the bedroom door. Not to keep people out, to keep someone in. This room had been a prison. Maya searched carefully. Opened drawers. Found clothes in child sizes. Shirts, jeans, underwear. All neatly folded but untouched for years. She checked the closet. More clothes, shoes, a jacket. Then, at the back of the closet under some boxes, her fingers touched something. A book. Small. Hidden. She pulled it out. A diary. The cover was worn. The pages yellowed. She opened it to the first entry. Her vision blurred with tears. The handwriting was a child's. Careful, neat, but shaky. And the first line read, "My name is Marcus Williams. I am 11 years old. The white man says I have to call him father now, but he is not my father. He took me from Riverside. I want to go home." Maya sank onto the floor, hands trembling. She read entry after entry. December 1998. The white man picked me up from Riverside today. He said I was adopted. Said I'd have a new family. But when we got to his house, he locked me in this room. Said, I have to stay here until I learn to be Michael. I don't understand. My name is Marcus. Why does he keep calling me Michael? December 21st. I tried to tell him I want to go back. He got angry, hit me, said I should be grateful. Said black boys like me don't get chances like this. Said I have to forget Marcus Williams. From now on, I'm Michael Whitmore. But I'm not. I'm not Michael. December 28th. He brought a doctor. The doctor put chemicals on my skin. It burns. The white man says it will make me lighter, make me look more like Michael. I cried and he locked me in the closet for 3 hours. January 5th, 1999. School started for other kids, but I can't go. He says I have to study here, learn everything about Michael's life. He gave me photo albums, videos. I have to memorize everything about this dead boy. His favorite foods, his friends' names, his memories. It's like he wants me to become someone else. January 22nd. I miss Maya. I miss Riverside. I miss my old life. Everything here is scary. The white man watches me all the time. Says if I tell anyone the truth, he'll hurt me. Says no one would believe me anyway. February 3rd. He made me cut my hair, straighten it with chemicals that burned my scalp. Then he took pictures of me, said I look more like Michael now. But when I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. February 18th. I tried to run away. Got out of the room and down the stairs. Made it to the front door, but it was locked. He caught me, dragged me back. No food for 2 days. March 1st. He had a dinner party, made me dress in fancy clothes, paraded me in front of his friends, told them I was Michael. I had to pretend, had to smile, had to lie. If I made a mistake, he said he'd hurt me worse than before. I pretended. Hated myself for pretending. March 15th. I don't know how much longer I can survive this. I dream about Maya every night. Dream about running away and finding her. But I don't know where she is. Don't know if she remembers me. March 28th. He says tomorrow I meet his family at a big dinner. His mother, his sister. I have to be Michael perfectly. Can't mess up. I'm so tired. I don't want to pretend anymore. If anyone finds this, my real name is Marcus Williams. I was born April 5th, 1987 at Columbia Medical Center. I lived at Riverside Children's Home. My best friend was Maya Johnson. Please help me. I don't want to die here. That was the last entry. Maya clutched the diary to her chest and sobbed silently. Marcus had been tortured, abused, forced to become someone else. And he'd reached out for help in these pages, but no one found them. No one came. He'd been alone, terrified, 11 years old and completely powerless. But the diary ended in March 1999. That was 26 years ago. Where was Marcus now? What happened after he stopped writing? Maya photographed every page of the diary with her phone. Evidence. Proof. Then she kept searching the room. Under the bed, she found more items. Drawings Marcus had made. Pictures of Riverside. Pictures of Maya. He'd remembered her. Hadn't forgotten. She found schoolwork. Math problems. History essays. All signed Michael Whitmore in Marcus's handwriting. She found medical records. Doctor visits noting skin lightening treatments. Hair chemical applications. Prescriptions for sedatives. For a child. They'd drugged him to keep him compliant. The more she found, the sicker she felt. This wasn't just kidnapping. This was systematic abuse, torture, an attempt to erase a black child's identity and force him to become a white man's fantasy. She heard a sound outside the room, footsteps, coming closer. Maya's heart stopped. She quickly shoved the diary back into the closet, turned off her light, pressed herself against the wall behind the door. The footsteps paused outside. The doorknob turned. Someone was coming in. The door opened slowly. A figure stepped inside. Maya held her breath. "Please don't see me. Please." The figure moved into the room, turned on a light. Maya saw him clearly now. Douglas Barrett. He looked around the room carefully. Suspicious. Had he heard her? Did he know she was here? Barrett walked to the desk, ran his finger across it, checking for dust. Then he turned toward the closet. Toward where Maya was hiding behind the door, she pressed herself flatter against the wall. Barrett took a step closer. Another step. He was right there, inches away. She could hear him breathing. Then his phone rang. He answered it. "Yes, Judge. I'm checking the house now. Everything seems secure. Yes, I'll lock up and leave." Barrett walked back toward the door, but before leaving, he turned back, scanned the room one more time. His eyes passed right over where Maya stood, frozen in the shadows. Then he flicked off the light and left, locked the door from the outside. Maya waited in the darkness, counted to 100, then 200. Finally, She used her key to unlock the door from the inside, crept out, made it back to her room without being seen. Her entire body shook with adrenaline. That was too close. She'd almost been caught. But she had the evidence now. Photos of the diary, photos of the room, photos of Marcus's drawings and medical records. She had proof of what Judge Whitmore had done. Now she needed to find Marcus himself. Because one terrible question remained. If Marcus stopped writing at age 11, if the photos of him ended at 15 or 16, where was he now? Was he even still alive? Maya barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Marcus's handwriting. "My name is Marcus Williams. I don't want to die here." At dawn, she got up, performed her duties robotically, cleaned bathrooms, made breakfast, avoided looking at the portrait in the hallway. But her mind raced with plans. She needed to confront the judge, needed to demand answers. The diary proved kidnapping and abuse. The photos proved Marcus had been here, but she still didn't know where he was now. She thought about going to the police, but Tasha's words echoed. "Be careful. If Judge Whitmore has the power you say he does, he's dangerous." Maya needed leverage, needed something that would force the judge to tell the truth without destroying her in the process. That afternoon, while cleaning the judge's study, she made a decision. She would secretly record her confrontation with him. If he admitted anything, she'd have proof that couldn't be denied. She waited until Barrett left for his daily errands, until the judge was alone in his study working. Then she knocked on the door, her phone recording in her dress pocket. "Come in." The judge's voice was distracted. Maya entered, closed the door behind her. "Judge Whitmore, I need to speak with you. About my daughter. It's urgent." The judge sighed. "Make it quick. I have court in an hour." Maya stood across from his desk, her heart pounding so hard she thought he could hear it. "This isn't really about my daughter, sir. This is about Marcus Williams." The judge's head snapped up. His face drained of color. "I told you never to speak that name. I'm speaking it now because I found his diary. I found his room in the East Wing. I know everything. What you did to him. How you kidnapped him. How you tortured him. How you tried to make him into your dead son. I have proof, photos, evidence. And I want to know where Marcus is now." The judge stood abruptly, his chair scraped across the floor. "You went into the East Wing? That area is forbidden. You violated your employment agreement. You're fired." Maya didn't move. "Fire me if you want. But I'm not leaving until you tell me what happened to Marcus. Is he alive? Where is he?" The judge's face twisted with rage. "You have no idea what you're dealing with, you stupid, ignorant woman. You think you can threaten me? I will destroy you. I will have you arrested for breaking and entering, for theft, for defamation. I will make sure you never see your daughter again." Maya held her ground. "Go ahead, call the police. Because when they get here, I'll show them the diary. I'll show them the photos. I'll show them proof that you kidnapped an 11-year-old black boy and held him prisoner. That you chemically altered his appearance. That you abused him for years. You think your connections will save you from that?" The judge stared at her, his hands trembling. Then something in him broke. He sank back into his chair, covered his face. "You don't understand," he whispered. "I was grieving. Michael was my only child. When he died, I died with him. I couldn't function, couldn't think. Then I saw that boy at a charity event at Riverside. He was the same age Michael would have been. And I thought if I could just have another chance, if I could have my son back." "So, you stole a child," Maya said coldly. "You stole Marcus and tried to turn him into Michael. That's not grief, that's evil." The judge's shoulders shook. "I gave him a good life. A mansion, food, education, things he never would have had. You gave him a prison?" Maya shot back. "You abused him. You erased his identity. You treated him like an object you could remake into your fantasy. Now tell me where he is. What happened after he stopped writing in that diary?" The judge was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. He tried to escape when he was 16. Threatened to go to the police. Threatened to tell everyone the truth. I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't let him ruin me. So what did you do? Maya's voice shook. The judge looked up, his eyes red and wet. I had him committed to a psychiatric institution, Clearwater Ridge, in the mountains. I used my connections, had him declared mentally ill, delusional, said he had identity disorder, that he believed he was someone named Marcus Williams, but that wasn't his real name. The doctors believed me. Why wouldn't they? I'm a respected judge. He's just a confused boy, so they kept him there, medicated him, locked him away, and I never went back. Maya felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. You had him committed to a mental institution for 18 years? The judge nodded slowly. Under the name Michael Whitmore. That's the only legal identity he has. His records as Marcus Williams don't exist anymore. I made sure of that. So he's been trapped there for 18 years, under a false name, while you lived freely, while you continued your career, while everyone praised you as an upstanding judge. The judge didn't defend himself, didn't try to justify it anymore. He just sat there, broken, guilty, pathetic. Maya pulled out her phone, stopped the recording. I have everything you just said, your confession, and I'm going to free Marcus. I'm going to tell the world what you did. The judge looked at her with dead eyes. Do what you want. I'm already destroyed. Just know that when this comes out, Marcus will be destroyed too. His whole life has been a lie. He doesn't even know who he really is anymore. The medications have made sure of that. You think you're saving him? You're just opening old wounds that will never heal. Maya leaned across the desk, her voice steel. That's not your decision to make anymore. You took away his choices, his freedom, his identity. Now I'm giving them back, even if it's painful, even if it's hard. He deserves the truth, and he deserves justice. She turned and walked out of the study. The judge didn't try to stop her, didn't call Barrett, didn't call anyone. He just sat there in his expensive chair, in his expensive study, in his expensive mansion, bought with blood and lies. And for the first time in 26 years, Judge Richard Whitmore faced the truth of what he'd done, and he knew his reckoning had finally come. Maya went straight to her room, locked the door. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone. She had the recording, she had the evidence. Now she needed help. Someone with power to actually free Marcus. She called Tasha, told her everything, about the diary, the room, the confession, where Marcus was now. Tasha's voice was thick with tears. Oh my God. I knew something was wrong, but I never imagined this. What do you need? I need someone who can fight a judge. Someone with resources and credibility. Someone the system will listen to. Tasha was quiet for a moment. I know someone. James Crawford. He's an investigative journalist from Columbia. He's been researching corruption in the foster care system for years. If anyone will take this seriously, it's him. Can you get me his number? Already texting it to you. But Maya, be careful. Once you go public with this, there's no going back. The judge will come after you with everything he has. Maya looked at the photo of Marcus's face she'd saved on her phone. The 11-year-old boy with sad eyes and that distinctive birthmark. I know. But I can't leave him there. Not again. Do what you need to do. I'll help however I can. We failed these kids once. We won't fail them again. Maya called James Crawford, explained who she was, what she'd found, sent him the photos and the audio recording. James listened without interrupting. When she finished, he let out a long breath. This is bigger than I imagined. Do you know exactly where Clearwater Ridge is? Blue Ridge Mountains. About 3 hours from Charleston. I looked it up. Marcus is listed as a patient there under the name Michael Whitmore. I can get lawyers involved, file an emergency petition for his release, claim false imprisonment and identity fraud. But we'll need to move fast. Once Judge Whitmore realizes what we're doing, he'll try to block us. How soon can you get there? Maya thought quickly. I have tomorrow off. I can take a bus. Meet me there at 9 in the morning. I'll bring a legal team and a camera crew. We're going to document everything. And Maya, You're incredibly brave. What you're doing could save not just Marcus, but expose an entire system of abuse. Thank you for not giving up on him." Maya ended the call. Her mind raced. Tomorrow she would see Marcus. After 23 years. After all the pain and separation and lies. But would he even remember her? Would 18 years of psychiatric drugs have erased his memories? Would he know who he really was? She had to believe he would. Had to believe that somewhere inside the 34-year-old man, the 11-year-old boy still existed. The boy who loved basketball and comic books. The boy who trusted her. The boy who wrote her name in his diary. She packed a small bag. Then she went upstairs, found Barrett in the kitchen. "I need to request tomorrow off. My daughter is having a medical emergency. I need to visit her in Colombia." Barrett frowned. "That's twice in 2 weeks. This is excessive." "Please," Maya begged, "let real tears fall. It's her asthma. She's in the hospital. I just need 1 day. I'll work double shifts when I get back. I promise." Barrett studied her suspiciously, finally nodded. "Fine. 1 day. But if you're not back by midnight, don't bother coming back at all. You'll be terminated. Understood?" "Yes, sir." "Thank you." That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She rehearsed what she'd say to Marcus. "Hi, it's me, Maya, from Riverside. Remember? I'm so sorry I didn't find you sooner. I'm here to take you home." Would he understand? Would he believe her? Or would 18 years of being told he was Michael Whitmore have erased Marcus Williams completely? Morning came slowly. Maya dressed, took her bag, caught the first bus out of Charleston at 6, changed buses twice. The journey took nearly 4 hours through winding mountain roads. James called Midway. "We're almost at Clearwater Ridge. The lawyers are ready. Just got off the phone with a judge who's issuing an emergency order for Marcus's evaluation. If he's been falsely imprisoned, we can get him released today. What if they won't let us see him? Then we make a scene. We call more lawyers. We call the media. We don't leave without him." Maya felt a surge of hope. For the first time since finding the portrait, she believed this might actually work. They might actually save Marcus. The bus finally arrived at the small mountain town nearest to Clearwater Ridge. James was waiting in a parking lot with 2 lawyers, a videographer, and a woman who introduced herself as Dr. Patricia Chen, a psychiatrist specializing in trauma and false diagnoses. They drove together up a narrow road into the mountains. Finally, they reached a tall fence. A sign. Clearwater Ridge Psychiatric Hospital. Private property, no trespassing. The facility looked grim. Gray buildings, barred windows, security cameras. Maya's stomach turned. Marcus had been here for 18 years, trapped behind these fences, these walls. They parked, walked to the main entrance. A receptionist looked up. "Can I help you?" James stepped forward, showed his press credentials. "We're here to see a patient, Michael Whitmore." The receptionist typed into her computer, frowned. "Mr. Whitmore is a long-term patient. Visits require approval from his legal guardian. We have an emergency court order." One of the lawyers handed over documents. The receptionist read them. Her expression changed from annoyed to nervous. "I need to call the director." She picked up the phone, spoke in hushed tones. Minutes passed. Then a man in a suit appeared. Dr. Raymond Holt, facility director. He did not look happy. "This is highly irregular. Mr. Whitmore has been a patient here for 18 years. His father, Judge Whitmore, is his legal guardian. We can't just allow random people to see him." Dr. Chen stepped forward. "I'm a licensed psychiatrist. This court order mandates an independent evaluation of Mr. Whitmore's mental state and the validity of his commitment. You're required by law to comply." Dr. Holt's jaw tightened. "Fine. But I'm noting this in our records. Any disturbance, and I'm calling security." He led them through locked doors, down sterile hallways that smelled of disinfectant and despair. Maya's heart pounded. Past other patients, some shuffling slowly, some sitting vacantly, all medicated into submission. They reached a locked ward. Dr. Holt used a key card. More hallways, More locks. Finally, they stopped at a door marked 23. Dr. Holt knocked, then opened it without waiting for a response. "Mr. Whitmore, you have visitors." Maya stepped inside, and there he was, sitting on a narrow bed in a small room with one barred window. A man, 34 years old, thin, too thin. His hair was graying prematurely. His skin had regained its natural deep brown tone after years away from the judge's chemicals. He wore plain gray clothes, institutional. His hands rested in his lap. His eyes stared at nothing. He looked like a ghost. Maya's throat closed with tears. "Marcus?" The man's eyes slowly focused on her. Confusion flickered across his face. Then something else. Recognition. Deep and buried, but still there. He whispered one word, his voice hoarse from disuse. "Maya?" She crossed the room, fell to her knees in front of him. "Yes, it's me. It's Maya, from Riverside. I found you. I'm so sorry it took so long. I'm so sorry." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. They spilled down his gaunt cheeks. He reached out with a shaking hand, touched her face like he didn't believe she was real. "You came back. I thought you forgot me." "Never. I never forgot you." She took his hand, held it tight. And for the first time in 18 years, Marcus Williams cried. Not as Michael Whitmore, the false identity forced upon him, but as himself, as the boy who'd been stolen, erased, but never truly destroyed. James's videographer captured everything. Dr. Chen began her evaluation, and slowly, carefully, the truth began to emerge. Marcus had never been mentally ill, had never had identity disorder. He'd simply been a child trying to hold on to his real name while everyone told him he was crazy. And now, after nearly 2 decades, someone finally believed him. Dr. Chen spent 2 hours interviewing Marcus. Her questions were gentle but thorough. "Tell me about your childhood. Where were you born? What's your earliest memory?" Marcus's voice was quiet, rusty, but his answers were clear. "I was born April 5th, 1987, at Columbia Medical Center. My grandmother raised me until she died when I was 7. Then I went to Riverside Children's Home. I lived there from 1995 to 1998. I remember my friend Maya. She protected me from bullies. We used to share our meals. She taught me how to play basketball." Dr. Chen made notes. "And then what happened in 1998? A man came. He said he was from an adoption agency. He took me to his house, a big mansion in Charleston, but he didn't want to adopt me. He wanted to make me into his dead son, Michael. He locked me in a room, put chemicals on my skin, changed my hair, made me study photos and videos of this boy I'd never met. When I tried to resist, he hurt me, starved me, locked me in closets, told me no one would believe me if I told the truth. So I pretended. For years, I pretended to be Michael Whitmore, because I was afraid." Marcus's hands trembled in his lap. "When I was 16, I tried to escape, tried to tell someone the truth. But the man, Judge Whitmore, had me brought here. Told the doctors I was delusional, that I had identity disorder, that I thought I was someone named Marcus, but that wasn't my real name, and they believed him. They gave me medications, strong medications, made me sleep most of the time, made it hard to think, hard to remember who I really was, but I never forgot completely. I held on to Maya's face in my mind, held on to my real name, because if I forgot, I'd disappear completely." Dr. Chen's evaluation was unequivocal. This patient shows no signs of psychosis, delusions, or identity disorder. His account is coherent, consistent, and corroborated by evidence. He has been wrongfully committed and unnecessarily medicated for 18 years. This constitutes medical abuse and false imprisonment. I'm recommending immediate release. The lawyers presented their emergency petition to Dr. Holt. He had no choice. The court order was valid. Dr. Chen's evaluation was damning. Keeping Marcus would expose the facility to massive liability. By late afternoon, Marcus was released into Maya's custody. He walked out of Clearwater Ridge carrying nothing, no possessions, no belongings, just the clothes on his back and Maya's hand in his. James and his team documented every moment. Interviewed Marcus on camera. Got his full testimony. The story was explosive. By evening, James had published it online. Charleston judge held kidnapped black orphan. For decades, institutionalized him under false identity. The article included photos from Marcus's diary, excerpts from his entries, audio from Judge Whitmore's confession, Dr. Chen's evaluation, Marcus's testimony. It went viral within hours. National news picked it up. The story spread across social media. Thousands of shares, millions of views. Outrage poured in from every corner. How could this happen? How could a judge get away with this? How many other children are trapped in similar situations? By nightfall, Charleston police had no choice but to respond. They arrived at the Whitmore mansion with arrest warrants. Judge Richard Whitmore was taken into custody, charged with kidnapping, false imprisonment, child abuse, identity fraud, and conspiracy. Maya and Marcus, along with James and the legal team, returned to Charleston. They went directly to the Whitmore mansion. Police were already there. Crime scene tape cordoned off the property. Officers searched the house, collected evidence. When Judge Whitmore was led out in handcuffs, he looked like a different person. Broken, aged, defeated. He saw Marcus standing on the lawn. Free, alive, ready to testify. The judge's face crumpled. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." Marcus looked at him with steady eyes. "You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught." The police put the judge in a patrol car, drove him away. As the car disappeared down the driveway, Maya felt Marcus lean against her. She wrapped her arm around him. "You okay?" He nodded slowly. "I'm free. After 26 years, I'm finally free." Douglas Barrett was also arrested, charged as an accessory. He'd known about Marcus, had helped keep him hidden, had enforced the judge's rules. Other officers searched the study, found files, documents, evidence that made everything worse. In the judge's safe, they discovered records of other children. 3 more black children who'd disappeared from orphanages in South Carolina and Georgia in the late 90s. The judge had been part of a network, an illegal trafficking operation that sold vulnerable children to wealthy families. Marcus wasn't the only victim. He was just the one who survived long enough to expose the truth. The investigation exploded. Federal authorities got involved. The FBI opened cases across multiple states. Names in the judge's files led to other prominent families, other powerful people. The conspiracy ran deep. 12 children eventually identified as victims. Some found alive, institutionalized like Marcus, living under false identities. Others still missing, feared dead. The trial became national news. Judge Richard Whitmore faced multiple charges across several jurisdictions. Marcus testified. His voice was stronger now, clearer. He described every detail of his captivity, every moment of abuse, every year stolen. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of people crying. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge received 45 years in prison without possibility of parole. His reputation destroyed, his legacy erased, his assets seized to provide restitution to his victims. The organizations involved in the trafficking network faced federal charges. Lawyers, social workers, orphanage administrators, all the people who'd enabled the abuse, all the people who'd looked the other way. Justice was slow, incomplete. Many guilty parties escaped consequences. But it was something. It was more than Marcus had ever hoped for during those 18 years in Clearwater Ridge. More than he'd dared to dream during those nights locked in the East Wing bedroom. For the first time in his life, the system that had failed him was finally, partially, working in his favor. 6 months after his release, Marcus sat in a small apartment in Columbia. Not fancy, not luxurious, but his, truly his. He'd chosen the furniture, picked out the dishes, decided what color to paint the walls. Simple choices most people took for granted. But for Marcus, each choice was a revelation, a reclamation of agency he'd never known. Maya lived down the hall with her mother and daughter Zara. The four of them had become a family, not through blood, not through law, but through survival and love, and the bonds forged in the darkest places. Zara called him Uncle Marcus, taught him how to use a smartphone, showed him social media and streaming services and all the technology that had evolved while he was locked away. Maya's mother cooked for him, made sure he ate enough, reminded him gently to take his vitamins, not the psychiatric drugs that had dulled him for so long. Maya herself was his anchor, his lifeline. On the hard days when the trauma felt overwhelming, when he couldn't leave the apartment because the outside world was too big and too bright and too free, she sat with him, held his hand, reminded him he was safe now, that he could take his time, that healing wasn't linear, that he was enough exactly as he was. Marcus was in therapy, 3 times weekly with Dr. Chen, working through decades of abuse, of identity confusion, of grief for the childhood stolen and the years lost. Some days were better than others. Some days he could go to the grocery store and pick out his own food without having a panic attack. Some days he could ride the bus and look out the window and feel something like peace. Other days, the walls closed in. The memories suffocated him. He woke up screaming, convinced he was back in the East Wing, back in Clearwater Ridge, back in the nightmare. Those days, Maya came, sat with him until the fear passed. Until he remembered he was Marcus Williams, 34 years old, free, alive, survivor. He'd enrolled in online classes, working on his GED first, then maybe college, maybe a degree. He'd lost so much education, so much time, but he was learning, slowly, at his own pace. He wanted to be a social worker eventually, wanted to help kids in foster care, kids in the system, kids like he'd been. No one should disappear the way he did. No one should be forgotten. Maya had become an advocate. She worked with James Crawford and several child welfare organizations, spoke at conferences about Marcus's story, about systemic failures, about the need for reform. She'd found her purpose, her voice. She was no longer the desperate woman who'd taken a job at the Whitmore mansion just to survive. She was powerful now, a force for change. Tasha joined their efforts. The 3 of them, along with other advocates and survivors, pushed for legislation. The Marcus Williams Child Protection Act, named after him, designed to prevent what happened to him from happening to others. The act would require regular welfare checks on all adopted children, create a national database to track vulnerable kids, mandate independent oversight of psychiatric commitments for minors, reform the systems that had allowed Marcus and 11 other children to be trafficked and erased. The legislation was working its way through Congress, slowly, bureaucratically, but moving forward. Marcus had testified before a congressional committee, told his story to senators and representatives, his voice shaking but determined. They listened, some cried, some promised action. Whether those promises would materialize remained to be seen. But it was something. It was progress. It was Marcus refusing to be silenced ever again. On the 6-month anniversary of his release, Maya took Marcus back to Riverside Children's Home. The facility had been renovated, but the bones remained. They walked through the dormitory where young Maya and young Marcus had slept in bunk beds, the cafeteria where they'd shared meals, the playground where Maya had taught Marcus to shoot hoops. Marcus stood in the center of the empty courtyard, closed his eyes, remembered the boy he'd been, 8 years old, scared, alone, until a girl 2 years older decided he mattered, decided to protect him. Maya stood beside him, remembered that same boy, how small he'd seemed, how vulnerable, how she'd promised to always have his back. She'd failed that promise when he disappeared, but she'd kept it in the end. 23 years late, but she'd kept it. James was there with his camera, documenting this moment. Marcus had agreed to speak publicly one more time, to put a face and a voice to the statistics, to the legislation, to the fight for reform. The camera rolled. Marcus spoke. His voice was steady now, stronger. For 26 years, I had no name. I was Marcus Williams until I was 11. Then I was forced to become Michael Whitmore. Then I was just a patient number in a psychiatric facility. I was erased, forgotten. They tried to make me disappear because I was young and black and powerless, but I survived, and Maya remembered me. She fought for me. She risked everything to free me. Now I want to fight for all the children who are still lost, still forgotten, still trapped in systems that don't see them as human. We all deserve to be seen. We all deserve to exist. We all deserve our real names and our real stories. As Marcus finished speaking, as James stopped recording, an elderly woman approached them slowly. She leaned on a cane. Her face was lined with age and something heavier, guilt. "Excuse me, are you Marcus Williams?" Marcus turned, studied her. "I am. Who are you?" The woman's eyes filled with tears. "My name is Margaret Whitmore. I'm Richard Whitmore's mother." "Your grandmother?" Maya tensed immediately, stepped between them. "What do you want?" Margaret raised a shaking hand. "I'm not here to defend my son. I'm here to confess. And to apologize." She looked at Marcus with devastation in her eyes. "I knew. In 1999, I visited Richard's mansion. I saw you there, a young black boy where my blonde grandson should have been. I saw the locked bedroom, the bars on the windows. I knew something terrible was happening. I confronted Richard, begged him to let you go, to get help. But he threatened me, said if I told anyone, he'd have me declared incompetent, have me institutionalized just like he later did to you. I was a widow, financially dependent on him, and I was a coward, so I stayed silent. I convinced myself maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought. Maybe you were being cared for, but I knew the truth. Deep down, I knew, and I did nothing." Margaret's voice broke. "I've lived with that guilt every day for 25 years. When I saw the news, saw you alive, I was grateful. But I also knew I could never forgive myself. I let a child suffer because I was afraid, because I chose my own comfort over your freedom." She held out an envelope. Inside was a check, $1 million. Every penny of my savings and the family money not seized by the government. I know this doesn't undo anything, doesn't give you back your childhood or your years, but I want you and the other victims to have this. For therapy, for education, for building new lives. It's the least I can do. The very least. Marcus stared at the check, then at this elderly woman who'd chosen silence over courage. His face was unreadable. Maya watched him, waiting to see what he'd do. Finally, Marcus spoke. "I'll take your money. Not for me, but for the other survivors. For the programs we're building to help kids in foster care. For the legislation we're pushing through Congress. Your money will help children. But I can't give you forgiveness. That's not mine to give. You'll have to live with what you did, with the choice you made. You chose to protect yourself instead of protecting a child. That's something you'll carry forever." Margaret nodded, her face wet with tears. "I understand. I don't deserve forgiveness. I just needed you to know the truth. And to know that I'm sorry, even though sorry means nothing." She turned and walked away slowly, carrying her guilt like a stone. Maya looked at Marcus. "You okay?" He watched Margaret disappear down the street, then turned to Maya. "I'm okay. She was another person in a long line of people who failed me. But I'm not interested in revenge anymore. I'm interested in making sure no other kid gets failed the way I was. That's where my energy goes now. Not into hating people like her, into building something better." 1 year later, Marcus Williams stood at a podium in Washington, D.C. Before him sat members of Congress. Behind him sat Maya, Tasha, James, Dr. Chen, 11 other survivors of the trafficking network, each one reclaiming their real names, their real stories. The Marcus Williams Child Protection Act was up for a vote. Marcus had been invited to give testimony one final time before the decision. He looked out at the faces of powerful people, people who could change laws, could protect children, could prevent future tragedies. He began to speak. "My name is Marcus Williams. I was born April 5, 1987, at Columbia Medical Center in Columbia, South Carolina. For 26 years, people tried to make me forget that, tried to erase me, tried to turn me into someone I wasn't. They took my name, my childhood, my freedom. They drugged me, locked me away, told me I was crazy for knowing who I really was. But they couldn't take my humanity. They couldn't destroy the core of who I am. I survived. We survived. And now we're here to make sure the system that failed us never fails another child. This legislation will save lives. Will protect vulnerable kids from being trafficked, erased, forgotten. Will ensure that every child in foster care has regular check-ins, has advocates, has a voice, has a record that can't be falsified or destroyed. I'm asking you to vote yes, not for me. I can't get my childhood back, can't undo the trauma, but you can prevent it from happening to future children. You have that power. Use it, please. The committee chambers were silent. Then one senator began to clap. Then another. Then the entire room. Standing ovation. Tears on faces across the chamber. The vote was unanimous. The Marcus Williams Child Protection Act passed, would become law, would change the system. It wasn't perfect, wasn't enough to undo decades of harm, but it was something. It was progress. It was children's lives that would be saved because Marcus Williams refused to stay silent. In the gallery, cameras flashed. News outlets documented the moment. The nation was watching. The boy who was supposed to disappear had become impossible to ignore. After the vote, Marcus walked out of the Capitol building with Maya beside him. The late afternoon sun was warm on his face. For so many years he'd lived in darkness, in locked rooms, in institutions, in the shadows of a false identity. Now he stood in the light. His real name known, his real story told, his real self, finally, truly free. Maya squeezed his hand. "You did it, we did it," Marcus corrected. "I couldn't have survived without you. You came back for me when everyone else forgot I existed." She smiled. That's what family does. And they were family. Not by blood, not by law, but by choice, by love, by the unbreakable bond between two kids from an orphanage who'd promised to protect each other. A promise broken by circumstances, but ultimately kept when it mattered most. Marcus looked up at the sky, thought about all the children still trapped in systems that didn't see them, still waiting for someone to remember their names, to fight for them, to refuse to let them disappear. He thought about the boy he'd been at 8 years old, walking into Riverside Children's Home, scared and alone. He thought about Maya at 11, sitting down next to him, saying, "You're going to be okay. I got your back." He thought about the years of pain, the torture, the erasure, the medications, the locked doors, the stolen identity, all of it. And he thought about this moment, standing free, name reclaimed, story told, legislation passed. Justice, imperfect but real, served. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. He still had nightmares, still struggled with crowds, still flinched when doors locked, still had years of therapy ahead. But he was here. He was alive. He was Marcus Williams. And that name, that identity, that self, could never be taken from him again. He turned to Maya. "Ready to go home?" She nodded. "Let's go home." And they walked together into the future. Two survivors, two advocates. Two people who'd learned that even in the darkest places, even when the world tries to erase you, even when systems fail and people forget, hope can survive, love can endure. And names, real names, have power that can never be fully destroyed. Marcus Williams existed, he always had. And now, finally, the whole world knew it. His story would echo in the halls of power, in the lives of children saved by legislation bearing his name, in every person who heard what happened to him and decided to fight for change. The boy who was supposed to disappear had become unforgettable. And that was the greatest victory of all. Have you ever stayed silent when you witnessed an injustice, even though speaking up could have changed everything? Marcus's story shows us that silence can be as harmful as the abuse itself, but it also proves that it's never too late to find your voice and fight for what's right. If this story touched your heart, If it made you think about the vulnerable children in our systems who need advocates, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Share Marcus's story with others, because awareness is the first step toward change. Leave a comment below telling us what we can do as a society to better protect children in foster care and prevent tragedies like this from happening again. Every voice matters. Every action counts. And together, we can build a world where no child is forgotten, erased, or left behind. Thank you for watching, for caring, and for being part of the solution. May we all have the courage to speak up when it matters most. And may every child know they are seen, valued, and remembered by their true name.